Spider-Man Far From Home actually cost less to make than Homecoming. Obviously, they didn't have Robert Downey Jr., so they ended up saving a little bit of money. It cost $160 million, but the marketing budget is something that nobody saw coming. They actually managed to spend more than they did on Amazing Spider-Man 2, with a total of $288 million being spent on marketing. I guess Sony finally made a smart choice? So before we get into the actual breakdown of why this is so huge, we have to talk about what happened before. With The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one, that was a much lower budget film, all things considered, when you look at the Raimi ones. And for Amazing Spider-Man 2, they were looking at this as their Avengers. That's why everything was so cramped, and that's why they were trying to develop the Sinister Six and all these spin-off films. So they spent a lot of money on actually making the film, but also on advertising it, and they never made a whole lot of money back, hence why he came to the MCU. At the same time, with $175 million spent on Homecoming, not having Robert Downey Jr. back meant that they could spend less and inevitably make more, and that's exactly what's happening, as Far From Home cost $160 million. But now, as per sources on Deadline, have reported $288 million alone was spent on marketing this film. Now, typically, if you look at your budget for a film, you're like, okay, so we just double that, and that's how much we're gonna spend on marketing. And there you go. Now, what's interesting here is that this is the most spent on marketing ever, for any film, ever. Like, they spent more on marketing this than Marvel and Disney spent on Avengers Endgame. And I think if you just look around you when you go into like a shopping plaza, you're gonna notice it, because Spider-Man's everywhere. He's on your Doritos, your soda cans, and everywhere. He's everywhere, literally. It's a Far From Home version. And Sony was smart to do this because they are backpedaling off of Endgame. And they understood if we invest more into pushing this film forward, if we invest more into marketing this in different territories, we're gonna make a lot more back. Now, to kind of go further into this, you have to understand that this film had to be marketed to so many different markets, not just the United States or just generalized Europe. They were obviously going to heavily push Italy, because there's a sequence there, then Prague, there's a sequence there, then Germany, because there's a sequence there, right? So they were smart in how they developed the film and how they came to marketing it, which is why the marketing budget is so huge. And ultimately, it will pay off, even though if the returns on it might be just about the same as the likes of Homecoming and Venom, it'll still play out that this is probably something that they were smart to do, all things considered. Because, let's be real, this is probably the first time a Spider-Man is going to hit $1 billion, which is pretty special within itself.